And welcome to the Dala Dialogue. This is a Kisumu Town Hall. We're live from the Baraza Media Lab offices, new I should say, and you'll be getting a good view of this new premises here in Kisumu City, if I should say so. And we are going to be having a very engaging conversation from stakeholders here, as well as our live audience that is joining us. My name is Mark Masai. It's good to be here, touched down not too long ago. And yes, I already feel the warmth of Kisumu. Now, I'd like to first give an opportunity to my co-host, as I am not alone. Mimi ni mgeni hapa. So acha nianze vizuri na mtanikosoa kama nimeuma ulimi, but urionade. Asante sana, asante sana. Now, to my beautiful co-host here, who's no stranger to the audience here, and for those joining us live, Purity, over to you.
Indeed, Mark, that was well done. You're a good student. And warwaki Dala inbe tojo Kisumu amoso uduto. Mun maber donge. Joho mun maber. My name is Purity Obwar, and I am happy to be here today and to have you all join us for these engaging conversations to just discuss issues that are affecting us as Kisumu residents, issues to deal with governance, issues to deal with socioeconomic aspects of our county, and how young people are engaging in these spaces to ensure that our issues are well tackled, our interests are also covered. Mark, over to you.
Asante, and we'll be having this conversation together as co-moderators and together as our audience here in our panel. And I'd like us to first meet our panelists here. Betty Okero, she is no stranger to the local community in terms of the voice that she gives to the civic body and society as the executive director of the Civic Society Organization Network here in Kisumu and in environs. Betty Okero, asante sana kwa kuja, and it's an honor to be with you in the same space.
Thank you very much for having me here, and I want to, of course, say hello to everybody who's here. Looking forward to a quite exciting conversation, a bit more honesty, less fear, I hope. As I say that, I look at...
You're looking at Bovins Ochieng.
He's already sitting firm.
Yes, seated right across.
He's sending me coded message, but really, it's so good to be here today. Thank you very much.
Bovins, you can loosen your shirt kidogo. Bovins Ochieng is a Chief Officer for Education, Technical Training, Innovation, and Social Services in Kisumu County, and that is why Betty is saying she's looking forward to an honest conversation. Salamia watu wetu hapa.
Thank you so much, Mark Masai and Purity, and for the Dala dialogue that we're having. My name is Bovins, just as you have said, and mine is to welcome everybody on board to the great county of Kisumu. Thank you so much.
Asante sana Bovins. Next to him is a young man, maybe ni millennial, lakini anajaribu kukaa Gen Z kiasi. Anaitwa Dave O.J. Hashim, and he is the founder of NAM Festival, and he'll tell us more about that. And recently just moved here, right? Am I right? Salimia watu kidogo.
Hi everyone. I'm also Jodala. My name is Dave O.J., as Mark Masai has alluded to. I happen to be the founder of NAM Festival that runs the campaign Justice for Lake Victoria. We are doing, our work is really around or at the center of using non-conventional approaches to break down complex scientific concepts of climate injustices and whatnot. Because Lake Victoria is what is, the pride of Kisumu and the region. So our work is really around conservation of culture, conservation of, nature, which informs our culture. So I'm looking forward to have, a well-curated conversation with my co-panelists. And yes, most recently I moved to Kisumu.
As we sort your mic, and we will definitely make sure that we get voice. Haujazimiwa mic, usiogope. Bado imesikika. Bado imesikika. Dave O.J. Hashim, founder of NAM Festival, and also Justice for Lake Victoria, as he was explaining there. And that is something we'd have to speak to, especially in the area of the economics of Kisumu and the environs, given the resource that it is for this county and the environs, and even in many ways to the continent. It is a touchy point, ukitaja Lake Victoria. Thank you for joining us. And the first thing I'd start with, because we are not tone deaf, we know what's happening around the country and what happened just several hours ago in Nyanza, in Migori to be specific. And this is just to get a temperature and a feel, because some have interpreted this happening. That is the shoe that was hurled at the president, or at least it seemed to fly his direction. Since now we're starting to get different videos and different elevations of it and angles of it. Whether this is an isolated incident in your view or a test of the temperature of the region, Nyanza, to the leadership of the country. Betty, wacha nianze nawe kwa sababu I'm sure you're not shy to speak. I mean, you're clad in red, so you're ready to be loud about your
I'm actually
opinion.
sending danger signals. I think that we should look at it in isolation. I think that our politics is highly violent. It's violent in speech. It's violent in policy. It's violent even in terms of how we do our development. What we saw the other day is simply just one aspect. We have seen it, and I think if there's any doubt, all you have to do is go to social media. Our language, our tone is violent. If we go to the streets, our response is violent. If you look at our justice system in the police, it's violent. So we have seen different shapes and forms of violence. And so the shoe throwing is simply just one. And if we start looking at it in isolation, we take away from the reality and context in which young people and people in Kenya are generally living in, where we've made violence a form of discipline, of fear, of repression. And when you start trying to isolate that as only a youth issue, then we take away from the history of where we came from that made violence an acceptable term on how we engage and react to protests or to things that we're not happy with. And so what we're seeing right now is young people taking the shape and form that has been designed by those in political or powerful spaces in terms of how they engage and interact with their citizens. And we're sort of, oh my God, did that person just do that? I'm like, yeah, he did, but not he. I don't know who it is. But yes, that person did. But why should just be an isolated incident where we're sort of showing our shock and horror? What about all the other things that have happened? What about what happened in June? That was violence. What about what happened in 2007, 2008? That was violence. And so if we just take this in isolation, we then take away the fact that what we're seeing now is a reaction of a pattern and series that has been set in place by people who should know better. And what they're getting back is really people speaking the same language. So we have to be careful not to show horror at yesterday and give a pass to every other violent situation that we've seen happening in the country that has gone unaccounted for, that has gone unmentioned, that has been ignored. Because if we do that, then we are denying our history.
I don't know and feel free to throw it at one of them. And pia mtu akiwa na burning point on that issue, si kurusha kiatu, lakini kama uko na burning point, tafadhali raise your hand and Mike will come to you. Hashim, you have been vocal. We were speaking earlier, Purity, Bovins, Betty and I, and Abdul earlier. You have been very active in terms of being on the streets, pushing for what you feel needs to be done for the country. And what statement does this represent? What happened in Migori, which is in Nyanza, our backyard here for Kisumu, in the development tour of the president? That happening, what statement do you feel has been put out?
Yeah, thank you, Mark Masai. I think for me, like Betty said, that it's really, not something you can put in isolation. But then again, another lead to that story is, Waswahili wanasema samaki angali mkunje ndi atakuwa, ama samaki mkunje angali mdogo. Now, what we've been looking at is exactly what they are getting or what they've been giving. So we have a political system that understands our problems, but when you look at it poetically, it's like people are tired of being told every electioneering year, hey, what shoes do you want? And then the next election year, they come and tell you, oh, sorry, we forgot the sizes. What sizes of your shoes do you want? So people actually get frustrated, like, what's happening with these people? They don't understand our issues. So how is the best way to solve our issues? By shouting, by trying to agitate, by trying to go violent. But in some cases, young people have actually shown us the way. They did not decide to go the violent way, but they were responded to with violence. So we cannot treat them as if they are the most evil in this scenario. I mean, how many presidents do we have? I was just looking out when I learned about it this morning, and my Gen Z nephew was telling me, kuna jamaa amekula ndula. And I'm like, huh? And then later on, I caught up with the news and I was like, oh, Bush, I don't know who else. There are a couple of people. I mean, people translate these policies that the leaders put in place in their lives. And the people who put these policies in place come around when we have issues, when we have gatherings, and we have meetings. And that is the best place for them to get signals or to get, feedback. So if they're bright enough, that is feedback. That's what I would say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, OJ, for that. Bovins, coming from a backdrop where we have been known for a very long time that we throw stones. And it's interesting to see how times have changed. Now we are throwing shoes. You serve in this particular government, so to say. What's your feeling on it?
Thank you so much, Purity. I think that what happened in Migori is not something new in my own understanding. If we reflect back on what happened last year, when young people were agitated and they decided to express themselves in a way they know best how to. There are particular issues they were keen on and they were focused on and putting forward to be addressed. One of the issues that was so fundamental is unemployment among the young people. The second issue is this issue, the dragon of corruption, that is actually swallowing our country, our nation. And these other issues that are also there that young people felt need to be addressed, including issues to do with education. Right now, for a young person to gain education is too expensive for them. The parents are not able to afford. Unlike during our times when help will actually enable us to go to a higher level of education. So that is a big challenge. And then we had what happened thereafter. What actually came to be when the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga decided to join hands with the president, only put on hold the issues. And right now, the same issues are not being addressed. And this is the major concern among the young people. And if you see what is happening, it does not mean that it's something new. It is something in the public domain, but the concerns are genuine. And any government that is forward-thinking, that is futuristic, needs to start thinking about creating employment opportunity for the young people, making life much affordable for the young people, and ensuring that the issues of corruption is addressed. But as long as there is no sign from whichever government to address these particular issues, we are yet to see more. Thank you.
Perhaps as a follow-up to what you've just brought up in terms of that not being new, what that has happened, expression of frustration, and much as it's being interpreted as either something from a particular area of the country, whether it's politically motivated and what have you. Something else that's not new is that handshake. It's been extended several times in history, politically. And I'd like to just get a feel of the room on whether, now that we are in a broad-based government, and arrangement do we feel as residents of Kisumu, which of course Baba has represented in terms of the area, politically, figuratively? Do we feel we are better off? And I could say those who feel we are better off as Kisumu, as a region, now that we're in a broad-based government, could you raise your hands?
Mark, is it broad-based or bread-based? I mean, that's how they are calling it.
Now it's blood-based.
Wow, now it's more or less the same thing depending on how. Anyone here who feels we're in a better place? So I guess the hands are a big no, that as a country, yes, Betty, we are in a better place.
Okay, so
Okay. If we could switch her mic up, please.
I think you can hear me now.
Yeah.
I think when you ask that question, then the assumption is we're looking for instant magic to happen. And that's not the case. Look, I don't agree with the way we run our politics. I mean, nobody does. But we cannot say that it's only one person. The political arrangement in this country is transactional in nature. Okay? And we sign with regions, and Gachagwa's impeachment told us exactly what it was. That was a purely transactional arrangement, as has been with all the other political leaders from all the regions, because we're looking for the 50+1. And all of them make some sort of arrangements, and those arrangements have nothing to do with us. Right? Nothing completely to do with us. However, some of it does. There are things that have happened in this region that we cannot ignore. At the peak of, I think it was the other handshake was the one at Harambee House, right? Do you know what was going on at the backyard in this country, in this region? They were killing every single young man, innocent or not. They were walking to people's homes. They were raping women. They were destroying people's property. So let's not forget, this was the background in which we were working in. And there were many people who were saying, and I do remember specifically that the day before the handshake, we had this new APCs that had just been launched in Nairobi. Do you guys remember those little small Beetle, whatever? We watched truck after truck, close to 10 or 15, driving along Kericho Road. It was a sign of power and fear. And we had horses. I mean, we have been visited by all manner of, we had drones. We had every single new military tool equipment that this country had bought. It was in Kisumu. And women were mourning on the street. And I remember some women saying, what aren't they going to do to us this time around? They were mourning even before the war had started. Literally. When that handshake came, we were having conversation afterwards, because we did bring a team of people who were saying, what is wrong with these Luos? Even after all this, they're still okay. Women were asked, what did you think? And they said, at least I go home today knowing that my son is going to come back home. At least today, I can walk out of here and not have to listen to somebody calling me to tell me they have killed my son. So that's the backdrop that we were working with in this particular country. So we have others who will dismiss and say, oh my God, this is another transaction. But that handshake was about life or death for the young people in this region. And please do not forget that there is no accountability for any young Luo son or soul in this region that has ever gotten compensation, let alone an apology. When you recognize that you have got a community that is always politically dispensable, and you have somebody who walks in and says, well, perhaps this time, absolutely no. The narratives of the stone throwing never came from us. The narrative of the stone throwing is one of degrading people, because we are told that we cannot run business, we cannot make money, we're unable to do anything. So we have got to be so careful not to get caught up in narratives about a community that is created by others and not us. Make your own story. Tell your own story about who you are. Show everybody who you are. And I'll tell you something. it is interesting that this time around, when the young people of Nyanza have refused to go on the streets, have you recognized that all the blame is being placed on them? And the question one young asked me the other day, who said that the burden of Kenya should be put on the shoulders of young boys? The story is different. And so when we talk about the handshake has been able to save some lives, not some, a number. Because that handshake was the stop of every single violence that we witnessed in Siaya, in Kisumu, in Migori, in every single place. Baby Pendo was not an accident. Baby Pendo was the continuous policy of this government to be able to harm the people, young people, because of their political position. Now, let me go back to your bread-based or your whatever-based it is. There are young people over here who have only known that when handshakes happen, roads are built. That when handshakes happen, money is opened up. That when handshake happens, life becomes a little bit easier. That when handshake happens, money is released to the county. We're dealing with that as our political system. We can't be waiting for people to shake hands for systems to work. So if we want to talk about handshake, let's talk about why handshake happens and not who the handshake happened with. Because then we'll be answering the problem and the root cause of why handshakes happen. And then ask ourselves, is this how we want to run this country? Where we now look for one person to be able to say, if it wasn't for this person, things would not work. That's not how we're supposed to run our country, but that's how we run our political country. Why? Because we are in a country, not because we want to make you or you or you improve. We're in a country where we're fighting for political power, for personal and self-aggrandizement, and we've got to change that. I'm sorry I spoke too much. I'm not going to say anything after this.
I'm not one to even try. Would you want to respond either with applause or agreement from around? Msinyamaze sana. If you agree with what she said, you could give a round of applause tafadhali. Umeinua mkono kwanza. I think you want to chime in and then perhaps.
Yeah, sure. I want to put more emphasis on what she's actually saying. I want us to look at this broad-based government in isolation, not as the previous handshakes that we've had before. And looking at it, we have to look at the agenda that formed the handshake and what we have within the MOU. One is the full implementation of the NADCO report, which of course was co-chaired by the Kalonzo Musyoka. And then we have enhancement, or strengthening devolution. And that is bringing more money to the counties so that the devolution that some people feel does not work, or we can make it work better. There are issues to do with participatory and involvement in terms of budgetary allocation, which is very key. Right now we are talking about the next financial year budget. How are the young people involved? How are women involved? How are other communities involved in that exercise? We are talking about investment as another agenda which is very key among the young people. So as young people, even those who are seated here, have we looked at the budget? Are we involved in the process? Where is our agenda placed? How much has been put in terms of budgetary allocation for that budget? We are talking about issues to do with corruption. We are talking about issues to do with ensuring that we deal with the loopholes and the pilferages that is happening with the government and so on and so forth. So there are those key 10-point agendas that are very important. And every time we are engaging the government, and more so the broad-based government, these are the issues that we need to bring forth, because to me I feel there are issues that are able to address the agenda of the young person at whichever level. But then are we part and parcel in terms of following up to ensure that they are actually implemented to the latter? And therefore, mine is to appeal to the young people to ensure that we look at these particular issues keenly. And again, just as Beto Okero was saying, that we don't expect this to be an instant coffee. There are time frames that could be considered. One is, for example, we are talking about budgetary allocation. There's one thing to do to have budgetary allocation, and there's another thing to implement. So I want to believe that if the government, more so the national government, if it is keen in implementing to the full the 10-point agenda within the MOU framework, then there are issues that will change. Thank you.
Some people would say the reason why it's not treated in isolation, just as a pushback, is because what is more evident and almost immediate is the appointment of friends of those who've been in the handshake. So that is why it's likened to the previous one, transactional, as Betty has said, to their benefit. So those who've been on the streets with these leaders fighting, pushing for certain changes, then feel abandoned. Do you at least feel where they're coming from when they feel abandoned by these leaders who end up getting their friends in leadership? Whereas not too long ago, they were on the streets pushing for change. Do you see where they're coming from?
Yeah, I totally see that. However, we need to look at the entire scenario holistically. And that's why I'm saying that the most important thing is to look at the framework first. Look at the issues of the young people. We know and we understand that the young people were on the street. We also understand the agenda or the reason as to why the young people were on the street. And therefore, in as much as we are trying to look into how to address the issues of the young people, I believe that the MOU that was signed can actually be able to address the issues of young people holistically. Of course, there are issues to do with the few positions that we are talking about, which is able to benefit those who are in those positions. And of course, there are few individuals who are able to benefit as a result of that. That one I know and I understand it happens.
I want to pick it from that point of the MOU, where you say that you believe that the issues of young people would be addressed there. But again, you ask yourself one question. Are these young people involved when these MOUs are being signed or when they're being drafted? Are the young people themselves giving out what really affects them? Or do we have old folks sitting in a boardroom somewhere and imagining that these are the issues that are affecting young people? We saw this just the other day when Kotu was to, they had a meeting. They want to go for an election. And we saw the young people that they presented, didn't we? And they say that the young people have
Someone
decided.
says they didn't see the young people.
You didn't see the young people, but we saw the young people in quotes, yeah? And you sit down and ask yourself as a young person, then who are you? If this is a representation of the young people. Yeah. And that is where I want to bring you in as a young person. Are you part of the table? Are you involved in the table where the decisions that are affecting us young people are made? Or do we sit there and clap and say, yes, Baba has spoken or so-and-so has spoken?
I like that because, you see, as young people and how decisions are made in this country, there's this thing that the Gen Z's protest already debunked, that you're the leaders of tomorrow. But when you saw how those guys organized and they led the protest, I joined it from Kisumu. They were organized, they were friendly, they were not violent, they knew how to pass the message. The placards, I never saw the funniest, art in, protests, speaking truth to power, basically. And this time round, without even a stone, the stones you're talking about being thrown, they were not thrown until the guys in blue start throwing what they're throwing. So I feel agitated, and I was thinking about Labor Day, and I almost thought this Labor Day should actually be Atwoli's birthday. Why are we even meeting about Labor Day for somebody who's been the labor chair since I was born in 1980? I mean, it's 40 plus years, and I've known the same face representing workers. Which workers? The ghost ones, or the ones who we know who are going to work and building this country? So I think there's this truth that leaders need to be woke to, that young people have been educated. And the new age in the digital reconnaissance has empowered them with tools. They know, on a flip of a finger, they know where you go to work, they know where you go to, I don't know which places.
they have all the information basically on their fingertips. So it's a beautiful thing to see that a lot of young people are self-educating on different issues. Look at how they were unpacking the finance bill. That was brilliant. And then translating it in different languages. I mean, going forward, I feel hopeful that guys will start demanding for those positions. Because I look at the conversation sometimes on social spaces and I feel like, you know what, I'm not giving up on this country just yet. I was, because in 2000, I was on the street, and that was the conversation we were having that I forgot to bring in. I was on the street with Simba Arati, who's today the governor of Kisii, because he was my student leader at Technical University. And we would shut down Selassie, Uhuru Highway, and Wayaki, and we would fight for our rights. And we would put the message clear. And if you look at, why does it always have to be agitational? Why does it always have to be transactional? Why don't we just look at constitutionalism? And the biggest challenge we have, those who are in these positions fought the very constitution that is supposed to guide them. So that's another alarm bell that Kenyans should actually rally behind the young people who woke up and spoke, because the elders were not able to speak some of the things that the young people were speaking about. Corruption, for example, he's talked about it. I didn't want to mention it until somebody talks about it first, because it's always been there. And if I compare the struggle that took me to the street in 2000 and the struggle that made me join the Gen Zs 1 year ago, they're not any different. Then what's wrong with us also? So another finger should actually point at us. What the heck is wrong with us? Why are these people constantly treating us as if we don't know what shoe, what size, what, all these promises? You come, you tell me you're going to buy me a shoe, and then next election you come and ask me what size. Then the next election you come and tell me, oh, by the way, what make? So guys are actually tired. They've seen through the lies. And they're beginning to understand, you know what? Even that truck that you're driving, the Guzzler, is my money. So people are owning. And people are now believing that, oh, there's a difference between rule of law and discipline. Don't tell us that young people are indisciplined. They're just following on your footsteps. But probably this time round, they're doing it better because they've understood the law. They don't want to cross the law. They don't want to break the law. They want to protest in the way it is supposed to. No, we are not carrying any silaha or whatever. We're just carrying a banner, a flag, and water. And I'm saying, I'm peaceful. Why do you shoot at me? So young people are actually at the forefront of the next revolution of the African continent. And it is echoing all the way to Burkina Faso. It is coming back, echoing all the way in South Africa. So in the next 3-5 years, spiritually speaking, I think every 20 to 25 years, changes must happen. Because people generally get tired of things that don't make sense. And that's where Kenya is. In 2000, when I went to the street, 2 years later, we got Kibaki in power. It is happening again, and Kenyans need to come out in large numbers and condemn corruption in any form. Let's begin by ourselves. Ukishiko ukioverlap, kula hiyo nini, inaitwa nini? Fine, just take it. Let us begin following the rule of law. Let us begin calling out corruption when you see it. Polisi yakikusimamisha na chukua 100, call it out. Kama wewe ndo kuna makosa, kula hiyo nini. You know, the fine. Because they say, wale ni sisi na sisi tu wale. So until we change, then wale pia watabadilika.
Hey, wale nisi. Betty, yes, I see a hand and I'll bring it to you. That we have a hand from the audience already to chime in. Betty, you wanted to either chime in or respond to something?
Yeah, I wanted to pick up from what Bovins was saying. Bovins will be starring, but we're still buddies to death. How about we just don't focus on any other document and just pay our attention to the Constitution? That's it. Why do we have to have side documents? The same document is used to hold your elections, to decide how you're going to be sworn in, to appoint whoever you want. But somehow it's not possible to do that when we're talking about development, you know, and we need to call it out for what it is. It really is just a private men's club, because I don't see ladies involved in that. It's just a private men's club sitting down, having a drink and deciding, so, okay, so this is Kenya. What do we petition? So this is what we have in ministry, so what do we petition? You know, it is, you have a time frame for the people who are getting political power, but you have no time frame for addressing corruption, unemployment, resources, health. How can we not be dealing with health when we know people are dying? But we're okay about appointing somebody. Turnaround time, what? 3 weeks? Really? Turnaround time for a guy who was made a minister is 3 weeks, and we're unable to deal with our shashi. Thank you very much. Our sentiments are expressed in this statement. And so we need to be able to ask ourselves, and I think for me, Kenyans need to stop being hoodwinked, and they're not. You know, so when we, and I always say that when we talk about some of these things, we actually give them life. We try to make it, you know, we legitimize it when we start talking about it and saying, oh, it's normal. It's not normal. Kenya is not a normal country. And for that reason, I like what young people are doing. They're not doing normal behavior. And because of that, the people in positions of power don't know how to deal with them, apart from violent protests, shooting, disappearing, kidnapping. Help me out. All those things that we talk about, that's how we deal with them, yes. Instilling a sense of fear when people are using their voices to say, this is unacceptable. So, Bovins, that agreement is an agreement of men. And it's a political arrangement. Let me put it that way, because then I don't want to be told I'm disrespectful. I really want to go back home today. But it is an agreement. It's a gentleman's agreement of people who are positioning for power. It does not in any way talk about all these people who are sitting here, who graduated 10 years ago and have been tarmacking. It doesn't talk about this woman who goes to the hospital and is unable to get medicine because your county has not been given money, because the national government has refused to release devolved funds on time to make it work for us. It doesn't talk about the years of corruption and the lack of accountability. It doesn't. And let me tell you, the conversation that I'm seeing on social media is one that should give every single one of us pause. There was this member of parliament who was shot, murdered, whatever. Did you see the response that came from people? There's no sympathizing with them. They're literally annickering this person.
No, they sympathize in a different way.
Oh, so that's how it is now. It's called, you know, alternative sympathy. We saw that with Madam Elachi, you know, that at your weakest, young people are not. They bring out receipts of the statements you made, of the comments you made. But let me ask you, and I say that as somebody who has taken a child to school to ask permission for the fact that she's late. All these people who went to secondary school, have you heard the language that principals use on students in school in front of their parents? The abuse, the humiliation, the denigration. I'm telling you, secondary school, primary school, your teacher is telling you how you'll never perform and you're just as stupid as your mother. These young people's language of violence did not come out of nowhere. It's come out from years of abuse and being told you're nothing and being made to feel that you're not in front of your own parents. And so when they get an opportunity, I tell you, they are not polite. And sometimes it is shocking, as somebody was saying, it is so shocking, but then the question is, it didn't come out of nowhere. It didn't come out of nowhere. And that's why for me, I always say, our country, Kenya, is a violent country. It is violent in speech. It is violent in conduct, in shape, in everything, in ideology. It is violent. And every single Kenyan is a product of the character of this country. However, we have hope that people are saying we need to cut that cord. And we saw that in June. May I tell you, I keep telling people, the young people in your own disorganized space, in the language you speak that sometimes I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about, in the way you communicate in your art and music and whatever it is, that is the language that will give Kenya a different face. Because that is a language that only you people know amongst each other. And it is because we cannot understand you that we are fearing you. And the only way we can deal by getting you to the top is by making sure that we shut you up. And we're not shutting you up through speech. We're shutting you up by completely exterminating you. And that's a reality. We are killing people to shut people up because of fear. And I just hope that they don't get to win this one this time around. That you continue to organize, that you continue to speak truth to power, and that you do it in the most unconventional way possible. Because that is what this country needs. We need to have a change in terms of how we're doing. So go back and say the Constitution or nothing else. All these other many documents and arrangements and agreements, and I don't know what we're doing in the dead of the night. We have to stop that and then just start fixing Kenya. We've got too many issues to fix, and we can fix it. If you can fix this country in terms of having a political arrangement with your opponent that can make sure that you are not performing, we can certainly fix the things that stop this guy from getting a job. We can certainly fix the things that stop me from walking to a public hospital. We can fix the problem that she's having where she's not able to get a job. We can if we want to. And if they cannot do it, then let's allow other people to do it. So you guys, go ye forth and speak your language of change. Because right now, that's what we need in this country.
Mark, if I may.
Yeah, and then I want to give an opportunity if we can get a mic to him, Tafadhali.
Yeah.
He has a question. He's part of the audience,
with,
Tafadhali.
A lot of emotions, and I remember the clip I was watching in the morning, and this guy's from, is it called Arangata, where there was something to do with land issues and 6 people were shot in Narok. Yeah, and somebody was lecturing our IG, and he asked some very fundamental questions, which I hope all of us could be asking these leaders and even ourselves. And he asked these guys, iyo serikali ni nani bila mimi? Ni ya nani? You know, iyo serikali ni ya nani? Na ni nani? Ni nini bila mimi? And it was such a powerful line. And people actually erupted. And there was a huge congregation, and the area MP was saying, if a court already has pronounced itself and said, leave that land to the community, who is this who has been sent here to do I don't know what? And people are actually beginning to get that fearless nature in them. And I like what young people are doing, because they're using that to bring out their fearlessness. And not only young people. When you look at that clip and you see those elderly men, guys are actually just tired of basics that are not working. If we are saying, today I do a crime and I'm arrested, this is the process. You do a crime, what is your process? Is this Shambhala Wanyama kind of arrangement where others are more equal than some of us? Or where's the pedestal? So guys are beginning to actually speak truth to power at their local levels. And they don't care. And they're asking the police, why are you here to kill us? I'm not even carrying anything. I'm just here to protest, to say, we have a court order. This shamba should not be touched. It is a court order. So imagine if we would all be doing that, if the court pronounced itself that this candidate is the one who has won. And we all decide, no, as we know who won. Sebasi kaende. You know, we will get to that point, and people are actually beginning to understand, okay, you want to use the law when it is convenient for you, But when it is not, you want to use other shenanigans and violence.
That doesn't border anarchy?
Well, I mean, saa zingine tunaambiwanga, you live by the sword.
But why is it only anarchy when young people do it? Why isn't it anarchy when the other people don't do it?
Yeah. Why is it indisciplined when young people are the ones saying kasongo?
Why is it criminal?
Hey, why is it criminal? No, it's because you guys do it, and you do it even for the worst case.
Got you.
Why isn't it anarchy when you steal 1 billion every single day? Why isn't it anarchy when we're being told that Shah is killing God knows how many people? I mean, why isn't it anarchy? Our definition of words needs to change.
Yes.
We've got to look at anarchy in its broader spectrum, where we're looking at it within the context of survival. And if young people are considered that they are anarchy because they're on the streets, well, the other people are not on the streets. They do a little bit more poshness. They sign it in a bill. They tell you that we are going to go to the field. We're going to go abroad we're going on a tour. And we're going to spend about... benchmarking. That's not anarchy. And it's all in such a posh way. We're going to look at how to plant boga, like we're not planting boga here. Why isn't that anarchy? And if we start looking at everything that's thrown at young people within the negative, we have to ask ourselves, and we have to ask the people who are telling us that we're not behaving well. Really? We're not behaving well?
Not being
What
patriotic.
about you? Exactly. And if we start doing the whataboutism in a way that one says, you don't get to be the one that has the right to break the law and then turn around and point a finger at us and tells me I'm breaking the law. When you decide that the rule of law does not apply, it's not selective application anymore. But then the question is, when young people do that, then we're told that, oh my God, we're about to collapse. And so we have to come in and rein in. And then, hello, we're having gentlemen's agreement because we need to protect the state. Really?
Purity,
I see him burning and
I think there's a mic
ready
that's
to
close to him. We
explode.
can just hand it to him. It's right
So let's give him a mic.
and then we can go to the school.
Yes, exactly.
So ladies and gentlemen, my name is MC Steele, STEEL. I'm an event host and young entrepreneur in event side, doing a show called Happiness, all about comedy and mental health. So mine will start by, this country has had honors since independence. And that's one thing that as young people, we first have to fight with. In the sense that somebody owns 2,000 acres, while another person doesn't, because since independence, their father had and it was passed down. And we're all struggling from the same space. 1. 2, information is power. Does the government want to offer that information even if they have a docket or a ministry of information? Because they know if they offer that information, that is where their trouble starts. 3, it is very hard to fight what you don't understand and even change it. Why do I say so? Because the systems that are there right now and are being used were made even before this generation of millennials are there. Don't even talk about Gen Z. So how do you understand these people if you are stuck in the system that needs to change? How do you think about offering a job yet you don't know other prospect job opportunities that are there that young people are interested in apart from the ones you understand and the ones you were taught in school? You see, the other thing is that we're being told that every time go for public participation. Did you attend public participation? I attended public participation, but we have people who tell you, sit down. Imepitishwa hii ni ya nini na nini. Huyu kijana anataka kuongea mingi. Next time anakuja, asiingie hapa ndani. Happens. Anybody who attended and became vocal at a point, itabidi umekawilishwa chini. Ambie, atakileta hiyo kierere yake, tutamfundisha and we'll show them how these things are done. We speak so much about politicians and we expect politicians to do leadership roles. Where? Politics is politics. Leadership is leadership. They're two different and distinct stuff. But because our system is engraved in political system, we are asking for developmental agendas on political spaces instead of leadership spaces. How? Lastly, ziko mingi lakini wacha nimalizie na hii.
Utaendelea.
Lastly, there's one thing. We've talked about constitution. The constitution is there. The court works with evidence. Can we try to think different in terms of who are you when somebody else is not seeing? In terms of, I kill you, there's no evidence, iko sawa Bovians. Kikuwa na evidence nitashtakiwa, sio? Yeah. But in this sense, nikikula do yako oje, najua nimekuumiza mahali. Humanity. Before we understand the humanity and decipher it to a level where love your neighbor as you love yourself will work more than a constitution, because it will need goodwill. I think we'll be heading towards the right direction. Shoes zikuje.
Makofi kwake. And I totally agree. MC still has brought out a very, very important aspect or question. And I want to throw this question back to the audience. How many of us have ever participated in a public participation forum? Mikonoju. You can see from the car. How friendly was it for you?
Very friendly.
You want to share? If you could have a mic on this side.
Just be ready to pass it around the room here. You give us your experience. Just say your name. You could tell us a bit about when it was, what it was about, and your experience of it as you get the mic.
Greetings. Oh, you say greetings. Greetings. All right. So my name is Maxi Daniel. I'm an event organizer, a creative, and a resident of Kisumu. I have been requested to stand. Yes, so I have had the privilege of joining a space that was looking into the budget of the county. And honestly, as MC Steele had said it, it wasn't as cool as it was supposed to be. People who speak like I do, we are oftenly told, kuja kidogo mrembo tuonane pale nje. And when you're invited outside, there are certain things that you will be told. For example, to be told something like, unajua hapa itaki mtu anaongea mingi sana. And at the end of the day, you look at them and you're like, what do you mean anaongea mingi sana? I am definitely here to speak about what affects me. When we were looking at the budget, for instance, I was asking the question of, as an artist, how is my activism or just art in general being catered for in the general budget? And I was told, tutaona mambo ya wasanii baadaye. You understand? And so I decided, kama ya wasanii is becoming a problem, let me look at it from a woman perspective. So I stood and I said, what about in terms of a woman? How is the budget looking into issues around corruption when I want to access an opportunity as a woman? That also became a, piki ponki kind of situation. So I said, sawa, I am coming in as a young person. I don't care about my woman, my artist, or whatever else. I'm coming here as a young person in the community. That was even worse than the one for artists, because I was told, tutaskiza mambo yenu baadaye. And whether we like to admit it or not, these are things that happen on the ground. When we're looking at even different other forms of, right now we are looking at the Kisumu Sexual Health Bill. There is a review that is ongoing. And if you look at the people in that room, I assure you, we are like 4 people who are under 30. And it's a conversation that people refuse to have. When you invite young people in those spaces, the way they are reacted to, or the way they are spoken to, you'll find themselves the next day not showing up to the space. And so you find yourself alone in that space, having to defend the entire Kisumu. So you see how crazy it gets. Yeah, thank you all so much.
Thank you very much, Maxi. A round of applause to her. And I really want to bring this back home, Dala, Bovins. Just last week, the governor released or shared his legacy in terms of his scorecard, what he has achieved for the past 7 or so years that he has been in power as the governor. Allow me to go through them. I have 9 key points here. The first one is completion of the Kisumu Urban Project. The second one is building pilot light rails in the Sugar Belt. upgrading and modernization of the Jaramogi Odinga hospitals. Most of us are clients there, yeah? So we have providing clean piped water powered by solar energy to all homestays. Putting up, building a modern sport complex in Kisumu City. Putting up library and resource centers at the village level. Establishment of innovation and business incubation centers at the sub-county levels. Building a modern conference center in Kisumu City. And the 9th one is establishment of village councils in accordance with the County Government Act. And I liked the phrasing that the governor has indicated here, that let's make devolution a success story in Kisumu. Jothura, is that the case? Kisumu County. This Kisumu County. This Kisumu County.
Well, perhaps another way of putting it to you is, as a resident, you have lived under his regime, that is the current governor, the county government, in the name of devolution, in the name of economics, and whatever else you'd want to term as youth involvement within leadership, participation, or even employment, or even women inclusion in leadership. What do you see, besides the 9 points that we've spoken about here, has been his legacy? And it could be a legacy from your point of view, whether you put it as positive or negative. What do you see as his legacy? You could even shout it before Mike gets to you.
Please use your mic.
Kisumu.
The CBD is clean.
CBD is clean. Mtu amecheka hapo nyuma yako, labda ni Kisumu ingine, lakini yes.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
My name is Daryl. I work in tech and I'm a creative, born bred. Lived in Kisumu my whole life except for about 7 years. To your question, I've seen changes in Kisumu. Of course, the urbanization of Kisumu CBD. It's a lot better than when we were growing up. So that's a tick on the governor's column. Secondly, the involvement of the county in creative spaces. I mean, Bovins is here. There's also Waziri, I can't remember her name, but you can never miss her in creative spaces. Beatrice. So the first regime, I won't mention the governor's name, but it was really, really hard to see the hand of the county in creative spaces, or at least involving young people in leadership and growth. Finally, and this is personal, of course, certain some of you guys have heard about Zone 01 Kisumu. It is Zone 01 Kisumu. Some of the beneficiaries of that program are here. It is something that would not have been possible without the involvement of the governor himself and the county government of Kisumu. We have a space that is trying to teach young people technology and provide them jobs. So directly that speaks to the county's efforts to provide employment for young people in Kisumu, as well as sustainable income. So just those three, I know there are negatives to those, especially the first one. You hear people saying Kisumu CBD is dead at 7 p.m., probably because, the hawkers who used to keep it alive back then, or the activities that used to happen back then do not happen because of the paved walkways and all that. I mean, you can cut it both sides. But I think those three for me have really, really impacted my life personally, as well as my living in Kisumu County. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Yes, mnaweza piga makofi. Kuna wawili kule nyuma. Yes, kuna mtu nyuma yangu anainua mkono na sioni. It's good to get a feel of the room.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Opakwa. I represent an organization called, my name is Opakwa from Lolo AI, which is basically the hottest AI startup in Kisumu. For me, there's a clear distinction from this particular administration vis-a-vis the last. This particular one is approachable in our context. We've engaged with them in a number of programs, and they've been open to support young tech talent. And also, from a circular economy standpoint, some of us were involved in the public participation stage of the now enacted Solid Waste Management Act of the county, which actually necessitated in the relocation of the landfill at Kachok to Kasese. So I would say, from my end, from where I sit, there are conversations that were dragging then, but they've been fast-tracked with this administration. Thank you.
Asante, right next to you. Simama.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chandi Tome, born and raised in Kisumu. Founded Lake Hub upstairs with my friends, and also helped drive education around innovation amongst young people. So I think Professor has done a very good job in creating an open space for young people to not only create jobs, but also enrich government programs. I think starting from Governor Nguma's time, when back then we were much younger, we were given a platform to basically help supercharge the ecosystem, the Kisumu innovation ecosystem, with whatever ideas we had. That is from skills development to startup development and so forth. And then came Governor Nyong'o, who basically has an open door policy. Having someone like Bovins here is a testament of how the good professor has been able to create an open space for young people to actually be able to contribute to our society. Someone like, if you saw Godfrey yesterday or 2 days ago, posted a photo of Bovins hiking somewhere with, and it was a funny photo because for us, it's very easy for Gen Z to complain, but this is something I can openly tell you. We've all come from far. And most of the time, as JFK famously quipped, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And I think I confidently represent, I speak for a vast majority of us who have never actually gone to government to ask for anything, but it was more like, let's have a dialogue, and this is what we can do together. And this is why spaces such as Baraza Media Lab exist here today. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chandi. Did we have another hand this side?
I think I would. Let me go because of the work we do at the lake with the campaign Justice for Lake Victoria, comparing my experiences in the past administration and this one, and how that compares with the work we do in Kampala and Mwanza. Because Lake Victoria is such a unique symbol of our unity that should actually be a project for, unique tea conservation for Africa. But to jump to the point, I think it's true this administration is a bit more receptive, and you invite them to events and they come and they actually want to know how they can help, especially if they see the value right away. And I think Bovins, we also worked with him and his office when he was the chief officer of Waziri Tourism. And what really made me feel moved with this administration is that Hawaziri came all the way to our office when it was in Nairobi, because we had a hub in Kisumu and the HQ was in Nairobi. She personally came to ask how we could collaborate in the next edition, which we combined together with the counties. I think it was Fish Fiesta that was coming. So ours became like a prelude to the Fish Fiesta. And we ended up sharing resources and doing some work together around creative economy and ecotourism and waste management, because we are in circular economics. And I think the other thing that needs probably to be highlighted is there could be some elements within this administration that sometimes make you feel really frustrated. Guys who just don't want to work. Those ones will always be there. But compared to also corruption, there's fewer corrupt cases in this administration that I can allude. I used to go from office to office and you have to cough something from one door to another. And with this one, I think from my experience, it was a wow factor because that also kind of went down because the governor comes, supports creative activities, comes to our venue at Dunga Hill, come to watch plays and some of the bands and interact. So sometimes I'm able to say, your officers are doing this to us and blah, blah, blah. And he will listen to people. He listens. So this is a listening governor. And you will report someone and you will see heads roll the following couple of days. Bovins is here. So those people who sometimes disturb us when we are doing our work for making sure that the environment around Lake Victoria is clean, watch out. Because there are officers who sometimes want to frustrate you for no reason, just because they see that they can earn out of your frustration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mark, before you go, there is a hand behind you.
I'm Odongo Robi. I'm a filmmaker by profession. So in comparison of last government and this one, I want to come in as an artist. I want to say the last government may have not been approachable or they don't attend the events. But as an artist, as an event organizer, we know what it costs for government officials to come to an event. Win is there. You know what I'm talking about. Let's gauge them by the last government, walishindwa kujenga cultural center. This government, wamemaliza, we can rehearse there. But if they come to my film launch, I'm a filmmaker, like I said. Kwanza, kuna sponsors wakionanga tu logo ya county ama umepiga picha na nyongo, they watch, wewe uko na pesa. And they come like, mtu moja anakuja na watu 20 na wanataka kuingia bure. So, me I don't want to gauge it on they are approachable. You can approach them and they take photos with you and wanaonekana kwa Facebook. And it's a bad thing on us. Let's gauge them on what they have done, which bado mimi sijaona. Poleni sana.
Thank you very much. I think we have a response from Winnie on this side. If you could have the mic, come to my right.
Billy can Bobbins can probably speak. I think he wants to say something as the mic gets to you. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. And this is getting interesting. I want to say that I come from the youth space and more so specifically from the creatives. And that's where we met OJ, we met Purity, we met Betty, we met MC Steele, and Robbie, Winnie Wenger, and most of the people who are here. And one of the things that we were advocating for when we were in that space was the inclusivity of the young people, and more so the young people within the creative space. And I remember even us during that time attending public participation, which was, of course, stage managed. You go there, you find the documents are not printed. So by the time they are printed and they are brought, the time is over and you need to go. That was the scenario by then. And then came 2015, 2016 financial year when there was an ADP, budget making process, that is annual development plan. And we were seated somewhere as creatives within Obunga Hall, within Obunga Community Hall. And when we were looking at the budget, we were more interested in the budget specifically on the creatives. And we realized that there was a budgetary allocation in the entire budget of 4 million, which was allocated for renovation of a wall. And that became an issue. And we started sharing it within our platform. And the end result was that we were in sports ground and we were tear gassed and men in black were brought. Yeah, so that was the scenario by then. And then we decided as young people that let's see how best we can approach this. And we came because we were approaching election. So we thought that why can't we have a candid conversation with the aspirants who are likely to be the governor so that we present our case in advance. And we developed what we call the Kisumu County Youth Manifesto for the first time, which we tried to reach out to the former governor, and we couldn't reach out to him. We reached out to the governor who was by then the senator, and he accepted to listen to us. And we had a platform at CITAM, and young people came, over 1,000 in numbers, who are sober in mind. They used their resources in terms of transportation, and they came because they wanted to have a candid conversion. And therefore, the document formed the basis of conversion on that day. And of course, after discussion, the young people who were there made a declaration that they are supporting the governor, and then he became the governor. Fast forward, in his regime, of course, right now as we speak, we know that we have Honorable Beatrice that we are talking about as a young person who sits within the county executive committee, a member within the cabinet, I mean. We also have a number of young people, including even director of budget, who is a young person below the age of 35. Director of budget is a young person. So in terms of even employment, he has tried to ensure that the young people are at the table and they're able to probably have a representation at that level. But having said that, there are also a number of things apart from those that have been said that the governor has put in place. One of them, for the creatives, we have Mama Grace Onyango Social Hall, cultural social center that we have. We all know the situation before. The artists who are here, you know what used to happen there in that place, that space, and the current situation where it is. Actually, the center manager of that facility is an artist, is a legend. He's called Roberto Masira. And we all know about him. Actually, today, before I came here, I passed through there. There's even an artist corner, the visual artist, and the other artists who are actually rehearsing there. And Robbie and the other team here are part of the team that use that space there. We also have...
Unakata. There's no film space there.
No, that's the fact. Actually, Mark Masai, after this...
Okay, let's give him a chance. Let's give Bovin a chance to finish.
We also have a number of initiatives that the governor has actually put in place. One of them that has been mentioned is the Kisumu Business Innovation Center within the Rotary space. And I can tell you that since the governor came in place, by the time he came in place, we had only 100 ECD teachers countywide. Out of the 653 ECD centers that we have in the entire county. Right now, as we speak, we have 700 ECD teachers that have been employed by the governor, and I can tell you right now that there's no child at the foundational level without a public teacher employed by the governor. And that to me is an achievement. Two, we have ECD centers that have been constructed all over the county. They are actually, out of the 653 ECD centers, we have 400 ECDs that have been constructed to completion. We also have a number that have been constructed halfway, and those that have not been done at all. But to me, those are achievements. We also, when the governor came in, we had about 20 vocational training centers across the county. Currently, we have 28 vocational training centers with a population shooting to 6,350. Rotary in itself has a population of 2,350. Those are learners who are at Rotary offering different trades for the young people.
So in short, basically, the scorecard you're giving the county government is, especially on your docket, 11 out of 10. That's basically what you're saying. You're doing your job. You're doing your job. The reason I'm also coming in here,
not really.
The reason I'm also coming in here, Bobbins, is out of respect as well.
I'm just mentioning a few.
Yes.
I'm not saying we have done even 100%.
Oh, give me a scorecard then. Out of
70%.
70%.
Yes.
So 7 out of 10.
Yes.
Let me cut you
I've
short.
not mentioned the commissioning of Kachok Dam site, which we all knew about, and it's no longer there.
All right.
Yeah.
He spoke about the participation process earlier, about the relocation of the landfill and what have you. And he said it actually was something to give a tick to the county. And I'm not here to just, throw mud at the county government. I want to give a chance to the lady there. This was just an opportunity to also pass the mic there. If she perhaps was going to agree with, because you're in the same space, Winnie? Yeah. So go ahead, tafadhali. Pole Bovins. I had to give an opportunity to the lady. Yeah.
So good evening. My name is Winnie Wenga Walcott. I'm an event organizer. I am also into my community. My community is Nyalenda. I grew up in Nyalenda. So I wanted to take on a few things that have been mentioned. I respect the fact that the governor has done probably well in some people's eyes. And I also respect the fact that compared to the previous governments that we've seen before, there has been probably improvements on people's eyes again. But I'd want to talk about three things. One of them is the dump site. Let's start with the dump site. The dump site was moved, yes, from Kachok, but have we asked ourselves where the dump site was moved to? If you go to Jubilee Market, which is a market within town, you'll find there's a lot of that right in front of the market. Right in front of the market. That is where nowadays it is. And it is there with a county container that's supposed to be collecting the dump, the waste, and then they're supposed to collect it from there and take it somewhere else. And that usually just remains there. If you go inside Jubilee Market, for example, there's a lot of drainage, and it's not clean drainage. It's a lot of dirt. I know this because I have mothers from Nyalenda that work there. My mother particularly has a stall in Jubilee Market. When you go to Kibuye Market, which for some reason is now, was now closed because of cholera and lack of electricity and lack of water, makes you beg the question, where have we been this whole period that a whole market that hosts over 500 traders can be trading without electricity and without water, so that now when the political seasons are just incoming, that's when we want to make the market be habitable. That's when we want to correct issues of water. And that's when we want to correct issues of electricity. Also begs us to go a different route with this whole Kibuye saga. Could it be because of the toilets? Could it be a power play? Anyway.
Sema kutoke. What do you think?
So, when we look at what we ordered versus what we have gotten, when we come to the Nyong'o is someone I respect. He's a father figure, so I totally respect. So I'm going to say this with a lot of love and a lot of affection. When it comes to what we ordered versus what we got in terms of Nyong'o's regime, we have a lot of good things, but we have a lot of negatives to take home. For example, we have a lot of roads that have been made, quote unquote, but are these roads to standard? Have they been made to the standard that we were told they would be made to? This road, for example, it might be a national government road. I don't know, maybe. But this has taken more than 5 years, man. What have we been waiting for? If we truly have a governor that listens, if we truly have a people, ministers and directors that listen, who are willing to go out there and speak on behalf of Kisumu to investors or to would-be investors. Why do we have incomplete roads with money already spent, apparently, quote unquote, spent? When it comes to issues of, for example, what Director Bovins was saying, the artist space. This particular artist space is very interesting because if you noticed, when it was mentioned, you noticed a lot of us just smiled because it's a tussle. There's a way the difference in generations is playing when it comes to that particular artist space. And this is how. Mark, for example, right now a Gen Z comes and wants to tell you how to run a certain space that you already know how to run. Would you be willing to listen? Of course not. That's the situation we have with the hall that Mr. Bovins is talking about. When it comes to issues of just availability of that space for artists, how available would it be for the artist when we need it? How accessible is it for us? And with all due respect, Mr. Bat is also someone I revere and respect. But don't you think it is time to leave that crown to someone younger, someone that understands the now, and be in a position where you can spearhead the space, but from an advisory point of view? Could that be better so that that space is utilized to the fullest? As I finish, there have been facilities that have not been finished, but their monies have been spent. The contractors have been on the roads, they have been to the offices, year in, year out, and they are tired. What does that do? That makes service delivery to my people a problem. And that's why when we talk about the governor, we have a love-hate relationship with him because of the so many promises that were made and yet so little that have been delivered. So our question would be, in as much as some sectors are working, the ECD, for example, brilliant. The ECD is doing well. The innovation sector is doing well. But what is happening to the core, the people that actually convinced a lot of other people? Those are the artists, the creatives. Because when the governor was coming into power, that was a power play. That was a baton he used on us. He said he's one of us. He said he's like us. He said he's a poet. He said he's an actor. What happened to that? What happened then within this period that he has been sitting on this space? Where is our, what was it called still? There was state-of-the-art amphitheater that we were promised. What happened to the training spaces that he said they would make even underground for us to... Bwana, don't laugh. What happened to those spaces that he said they would create? What happened to that particular amphitheater that would host over 6,000 of us? What happened?
Makofi.
Mark, you have two hands also.
There's two hands behind me and I see another over there. So
Yeah.
tunaweza anza upande huu just to get a better feel of the room. You could give the lady first. Alafu itakuja kwako, usiogope, itakuja kwako. It's your opportunity. And what you've touched on, Winnie, perhaps Bovins hata respond because he sold it very well. Mimi si mwenyeji, mimi nilikuwa tu na nod kichwa kumbe. Kumbe, there's other things at play. He'll respond on whether the leadership can change to accommodate. But then she brings up an issue of the youth leadership, and also women leadership, which I'll put to you. But first, speak, and then to the gentleman there as well.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Prisco Buya. I'm the treasurer at Kisumu County. I'm a high school teacher, and I'm also a part-time lecturer. I want to congratulate the governor of Kisumu County. Comparatively, if we look at his predecessor and what he has done, some good work there. But I have a few questions and a few concerns to raise, beginning with the Ministry of Agriculture. I want to believe for every ministry, there's a CS in the county, right? Thank you. Now, we have a hero rice scheme about 20 minutes from the CBD. A large space with farmers and an irrigation scheme, water channels and everything. But then in all our supermarket shelves, there is no Ahero rice. What is the CS Agriculture doing? Why is he earning salary when we are still being fed as residents of Kisumu, Mwea Bishori? That is food for thought for the governor. We boast the second largest water body, very fresh. But do you know what? I'm a resident of Nyamasaria. I don't have water. Maybe 3 hours a day, if I'm very lucky. Perhaps sometimes 3 days, and there's no water. My house is 10 minutes drive to the governor's office. Is there a CS water? Why are they earning salary? There is fish that God just put in that water body. But I don't remember the last time I fed proper fish and really got satisfied in my house. That fish, the ngege, that is tilapia, the Nile perch, is out of the reach of many tables in this county. And then now we are told there are cages, then we are told, I don't know, it's a whole circus. What is the CS under whose ministry that docket is doing about it? I'm told, I have never confirmed, that the fish finds its way to some factories in Central Province, perhaps Kiambu County in Thika, I don't know. There's work to be done so that the residents of Kisumu can enjoy this God-given thing whose only input is just somebody to go into the water and get it out. Ministry of Education, I told you I'm the treasurer of Kisumu County, and I heard members say here the governor has been networking with different stakeholders. We have been sending invites to the governor's desk every year when we hold our AGM. He has never graced. This is my 4th year in office. Where are the teachers? By the way, I'm in charge of 5,000 high school teachers. KUPPET is Kenya Union of Post-Primary and Tertiary Institutions. The governor has never come to listen to 5,000 high school teachers and tertiary tutors of his own county. Invites notwithstanding, some work there. I don't know if I can be allowed to comment on national issues that arose from the floor before, because I want to do it once and then I sit down. Thank you so much. I have some small parcel of land and some mabati structure on the parcel. Now, some 3 years ago, some boys were working in my compound where I stay in Nyamasaria, not the parcel I've mentioned. And for some time, you know, they are young boys. I used to notice this young boy who was really clumsy with carrying the blocks. He really looked like he was suffering. He really didn't fit. So one day, as they were taking their break, we got talking. And this boy told me, "Madam, if you hear of any job opportunity, please share with me. I'm a BCom holder, and I graduated 3 years ago." I looked at him again, and you know, I almost cried. It is now almost 4 years. That boy is living in my Mabati structure, taking care of that undeveloped property. His wife, coincidentally, is also a BCom holder. They graduated from Masinde Muliro. There's just no job. There's just no hope. Yesterday, I was in that plot, and I was there the whole day. It was a Sunday. So when I was leaving in the evening, I told him, Alphonse, now I'm leaving. Can you tell me anything? And he was like, Madam, I've not eaten the whole day. And that was 6:30 in the evening. I gave him some 700 shillings. Ladies and gentlemen, the narrative of this country is dirty. It is evil. It is stinking. It is rotten. And the writing is on the wall. You are seeing it in the reactions of Kenyans when a leader passes on or suffers one misfortune or the other. It is time that we begin holding these conversations in the right places, because the situation in this country, Kenya, is about to implode on itself. Meetings. It is a time bomb waiting to happen. What happened in Nairobi last year, June, is just but a tip of the iceberg. And if we don't fix it, and fix it quickly, the recent death of the MP, I come from Homa Bay County, who was shot. I know of specific names and specific people who have suffered, and their names have not even made their way into those stories that you have read. But I know of specific names and specific people. If our leaders cannot climb off the high horses where they chest thump and, talk down at the electorate today is an intelligent, restless, educated, and informed and energetic electorate, Kenya will implode on itself. May God help all of us, because none of us will be safe even then. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. A round of applause to her. But even as you sit down, before you raise your question, you have also talked of youth unemployment. That is something that I've picked from your conversation. And you've mentioned the aspect of there are no jobs. Let us be critical here and internalize this question that I'm throwing back to the audience. Is it a narrative that there are no jobs in Kenya? Or is it a narrative that the youth in Kisumu or young people in Kisumu are Jaluo Janyade? Me, I cannot go into agriculture. I need an office job. I need to sit in a swinging, I need a blue collar job, sit on a swinging chair. Or is it truly that our young people in this region are suffering from employment? So that is food for thought. Think about it as you're going to respond. In the meantime, Betty, I know you want to kick in, but let's give him a chance. Then you will pick it up from there.
Good evening. My name is Nicholas Adongo. I'm a film producer and a film director based here in Kisumu. I'll start by your question. Is it that there are no jobs? Or we are people of Nyadi? Yes, we are people of Nyadi because we need spaces where we can show our Nyadi. We need spaces where we can stand and say, me as a filmmaker, I don't have a film hall in Kisumu. When you're telling me about a social center to screen my film, well and good. But in terms of film business, I'm looking at that social center as a place of just doing my social and local screenings. But when I want to do my premiere, and then I'm going to a social place to do a film premiere, then I ask myself, really? Is that the best place that you're giving me? What we are crying for is a space where we look at a government that creates, a county government that creates spaces for that. We are not demanding for money. We are demanding for spaces. If you create for me a cinema hall where I can do my premieres and do my subsequent screenings, we have done films here in Kisumu that one is even in Netflix. We have done main films here in Kisumu that one has not been premiered today because of some issues. But when you hear Winnie talking about a government which comes and takes photos. Yes, PR is good for government, but is it helping that person who they went to that event? I placed your banner, I placed your logo on my banner when I'm doing my premiere. Then I get out of that premiere with loans and everything, and the cinema hall is on my neck telling me you needed to pay 60,000 to do this, and you paid me 20,000, yet your hall was full. Yes, it was full with the county people who came 70 and did not pay. So I cannot pay you the remaining 40,000. So I'm looking at a space where I can do my art. Mama Grace Onyango Social Center has been improved. But it pains me that we sat in a meeting for 2 days to discuss how an amphitheater is coming, and we were told Mama Grace Onyango Social Center is just a place that we will start with that, so that we find a place where we can start with, and then we move to the amphitheater. Then immediately the cabros were put at Mama Grace Onyango Social Center and the tiles, so that the place looks well painted, and the manager, it stopped at that. Maybe they're working on it. Maybe it will be a campaign tool, but we will be looking from a distance and saying, we had you that time, but we can only sympathize and move on as young people. Yet again, Bovins is talking about placing somebody to be, oh, the youth is part of the CEC. Good. OJ said about someone who comes to you and tells you, oh, you don't have shoes. Which number do you put on? Number 9. So the current regime is asked us about the shoe size. They are now telling us that they didn't ask us about the color and the design of the shoe. So, Bobbins, I respect you because we have been with you in this even when you are still in Ubunga. And now you are there. Please, when you're there, push our voice the way you are pushing our voice. I can even remember the last time we were with you in an event when one of our artists was not paid, and we are pushing hard. So keep on pushing hard. As the chief of staff or chief officer, I think you can do more than what we can do. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
There's a gentleman back there. We have to give him his opportunity. Please pass it down to reach to him. And then as it gets to you, sir, a question that I'd want is, I guess, two-pronged. And it's about the numbers of or representation by age, first of all, in terms of youth below 35. At least going by the last election, you're only looking at one MCA who was elected then under 35. And also the numbers for women, minus, of course, women representatives. There's always that gap of leadership of women. How do we close that gap? And it's not just Kisumu. It's countrywide. So as you think about that, Betty, let's give the opportunity to the gentleman.
Hello, guys. My name is Lameka Pio. I am a business person in Kisumu County, and I'm also a social researcher. I have a background in sociology and anthropology. I would want to make a comment, and I want to commend the previous speakers, starting from Winnie Walcott. And I want to ask this question to the floor. Are we approaching our debate from idealism or from a reality perspective? Because we are suffering as a nation because we've turned to be hypocrite people, and we've turned to be dishonest, and we're just selfish. So let me just ask, even if you ask us inside here about the percentage of the scorecard of the governor from the 10 or 9 items that she did read, somebody would say 40, somebody would say 100. Are we talking from our self-interest, or we are talking from a reality? I would throw this question. The road that we are hailing at from our politicians, from our government, do you think that road mirrors who we are? Guys, are we there? Is the government mirroring what we are? I have been to this space of political space, this nation, and let me ask you, it has turned to be very easier for me to throw a stone at a governor or a president than to throw a stone at my boss who is known for his mischievous behavior. The other day, let me borrow this. There was a Charles Odhiambo in Homa Bay, who's the chief of staff. And Charles was coming from Ramogi. And there was a history of Charles in Ramogi. I mean, why does it only make sense when it crosses to the political office? Let me say this. We need to be realistic. Is it the politician which is bad, or the leader, or the political environment, or it is us? He was submitting at the point, I'm sorry I came late, that they were with Simbarati in the street as a student leader. Where does things change when today I am with MC Steele here, then the next, because let me say this, amidst us, these faces, girls, gentlemen I'm seeing, governors are here, senators are here, nominated appointments are here, but just in a short, maybe 10 years, 5 years to come. But what makes people not to adhere to the principles of serving people better? I don't know if I may ask him if Simbarati is doing better now.
Jibu swali, umeulizwa.
Well, I'm not in Kisi, so I don't know.
I know Governor James Orengo was so vocal, and they're part of the team that delivered the second liberation in 90s. And let me ask you, today, where do we draw the line? Let me say this. In my language, they say, in my tribe, Oyeyo Achiel, Ema Kunyobur. But now, are we suffering from the enlightenment, the conscious age, the information age that we have? Do we need to moderate ourselves so that we live on the principle of realism? Because we can't say that all these people are just bad. They're just good when they're this side, and when they cross, they're good. That means they turn to be bad. But what happens in the private sector? What happens in these employment spaces? Spaces. So let me say this, and as I finish, Senior, as we save, somebody said that it's just a matter of time, and I don't know where we're headed to as a nation. We stand better as a nation, as Kenya, better than some other East African nation, but we only need to be moderated. We only need to bring our head, and then we don't have those many good ideas that we say in our private spaces, in hotels, but we talk of things that we can adhere to as we model ourselves, as we also get to understand that as I discuss my interest, you also have your interest. So what do I lose so that you also gain something? Then we remain with a same leverage point, and then we create a healthy society.
Asante sana. Ebu isema ile hiyo semo lako like the Luo and then translate it just for the audience that don't speak Luo PN. What you just said.
Oyeyo Achiel Ema Kunyobur. So what it means is sometimes one rat digs the hole that would serve the rest. And in what we suffer as a nation is, and we suffer this at family level. Some of us speak well here, but your child is not listening to you. Your kid bro that you're paying school for is not listening to you. But we are quick to condemn people in offices. So this hole, we are all struggling to dig the hole. Because I am an engineer, you are a doctor, you say I know it better, you are young, you are old, you are a joker, you are too serious with life.
Asante sana. Tupe makofi tafadhali.
Which hole are you digging?
Yes.
I'm not in any hole, but it's interesting you should say that, because what he's literally telling me is that therefore I have absolutely no authority to speak out just because the other person is not talking, or that I will see the evil, but I am not supposed to speak about it because I'm unable to do what? Pay attention or get the other person to listen to me. Anyway, that's the sort of challenge that we have in this country.
Yes.
Where if you raise an issue on one side, instead of debating it, we sort of point finger and start moralizing and becoming moral police about whether we can or not. It doesn't take away from the fact that we all then must be able to say that if we want to be measured this way, we must also be able to fit that way. But let me just start from one thing. Budgets are development tools. But in Kenya, we've made budgets as political tools. So we fight about where the money goes. And we do it so viciously that we then look at even people within one county. That becomes an enemy because they come from, I don't know, we've got the 3Ks, conversation going on. So you will get and you won't get and you won't get. And I remember at some point at the beginning of this particular government, there was the whole issue around, please turn your ID card around and what does it say? And if it says that you belong to God knows where, go back there. And that's a problem I have about the way we design our ID cards, because it sort of puts us into boxes which are so unnecessary. So we went through that whole phase where we were questioning whether you are legitimate voice to speak about what is going on in this country, in this county, because then it was like, go back to where you're, unfortunately for us, we might be born here, married somewhere else. Our ID card doesn't tell us where you're born or where you're living. It literally just shows where you're married. And therefore I am told to go back to God knows where, even though I'm a tax-paying, citizen over here. So we're dealing with the political nature in which we have designed our budgets or made our budgets. The second thing, and this is to Gen Z, you guys occupied churches. You occupied many churches. Have you explained to me how you guys are not about to occupy Huduma Center or the governors or Bovin's place? I mean, really? There's a sense in which, and I see that a lot, the conversation that happens at the national level, we spend so much time dealing with the issues at the national level, but for some reason we find ourselves unable to apply the same strategy and approach back in your own background or home ground. And we can't keep quiet. Issues around accountability requires presence, voice, visibility, anger, writing, doing everything. And you cannot outsource it how we are outsourcing it to bovines. We must take charge of that conversation ourselves. Look, I don't know about the amphitheater, but the last time I checked your CIDP, I didn't see an amphitheater. There's no amphitheater in a CIDP. I'm telling you, there's no amphitheater in a CIDP document. In other words, Storia what? Thank you very much. Because the CIDP is the Bible or the blueprint for development in any county for 5 years. Now, if the CIDP does not have an amphitheater, and I'm hearing you guys talking about an amphitheater, I'm thinking, hello, perhaps that's a national level activity. And we need to go back, because I do recall that the national government, at the point when we had shaken hands, there was a conversation about the amphitheater. No. The national government.
There was also one about a ring road around Lake Victoria.
That cannot be a county government because we do not have the resources to do that. That was a national government activity, including the amphitheater. And I think it was connected closely at that time with our Afri-cities. Was that the, no? It wasn't, okay. I'm not going to go there then. Let me just say one thing. The national government has 85% of the total budget. The budget for this country last year was 1.4 trillion. 1.4 trillion. The budget that went to State House is almost equivalent to the total budget that's given to 47 counties. I just want you to just take that in for a second. The office of the president has money equivalent to money that is allocated to 47 county governments. Okay? And we have a budget of 1.4. And if I'm wrong, please, but I know it is 1 trillion. It's 4 trillion. Not even 1.4. Okay. Now, that is your trillion. We only keep 14%. We've been struggling with 15. Now it's 10% because we're looking at the budget of I do not know which year that has not been passed. This national government has managed to get you guys and everybody else so focused on the county government, and we have forgotten what's happening in the national government and what they're doing with money. I work with the county government, and I can tell you, I work in Kakamega, I work in Vihiga, in Kisumu, and Homa Bay. And if I tell you the horrors of the fact that you have national government departments that get 250,000 shillings in a year in a county that has 5 sub-counties, I can tell you that money is not going to development. That money is going to be able to your recurrent or your transport or your God knows what, but it does not go to development. If you look at the money that's going to agriculture, because you talked about it, the national government gives what? Bovins, if I'm wrong, 30 million? Or was it 25 that was given to agriculture? Zero. And because I work with the Department of Gender, I can tell you they're not getting a dime in development from the national government. Fact. So let's start having a campaign about budgets, but let's also start from an informed point of view. That frankly speaking, 85% are staying in the national government, 4 trillion national budget, 250-something billion shillings is nothing compared to the billions. So where's the money going to? Where is the money going to? When we start talking about roads, where are your roads? You talked about the roads. This one, it's not been done. It's a national government. It always is done when we're in the right books with the government. So the last time it was done, we had shaken hands with the previous predecessor, remember? And the next thing we knew, we had tractors. We had guys being told, Kazi ya mtaani imekuja. Do you remember? We were paying people and we had a visit and we all stood on cars and said, ni yeye na ni yeye too. Forgetting that 6 months before that, he was shooting young people to death. We have a short memory about our own history. Now let me go back to what she talked about. Agriculture, food is a political tool in this country. Do you guys know that in Ahero, nobody has a title deed? Zero. You're aware? They do not have a title deed. They don't. Do you guys know that sometimes Ahero people will tell you they cannot pump that water from River Nyando because they need permission from NIB? I mean, what sort of BS is that? And it's happening. They're also told that they cannot plant rice for a whole year. They can only plant for a couple of months. Then they have to take a break. Why? Because if you plant it for the whole year, where do you get to sell the rice that you're talking about? It's a fact. This is a country that decided that there were certain regions that could never be developed. And if you are sessional paper number what? Here it has been changed. You couldn't even get cooperative. You couldn't. We have been battling with the issue around sugar in Nyanza about settling debts that we did not create. We have begged and pleaded. I hear now it's happening. We shook hands. What are we calling it? Bread bed or whatever it is, you know? So it happens. So people see what happens when those hands are done. But we're saying we cannot wait for favors. It has got to be something that we discuss on the right. So let me go back to the whole issue around women. Our parties are patriarchal in nature. Okay? And therefore, sometimes when you have to compromise, you compromise women first. But I tell you what, it's not our party that's the problem. It's every single one of you guys who's a registered voter. If you decide that you're not voting for that woman you want, everybody was saying, oh, we couldn't, that the political party rigged the elections. Even when that person became an independent candidate, you're still stuck in that same party that had rigged. So for me, that is just a lot of excuses that we use. If we want to get people that we want, we will get. For me, as a person who sits here, I can only advise one thing to young people. You need an electoral coup. When I say an electoral coup, you must be able to attack the structure or the institution that gives the president the power to do what it is. Which is that you've got to be able to talk about the houses that give power for things to be done the way it does. So when I talk about an electoral coup at the national level, I think you know what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about an electoral coup at the county level, you know what I'm talking about. The places that give power to the people we elect to be able to manage our county, whether it's the position of president or the position of the county governor, you know where they get their powers to. Take up those spaces. And when you get those spaces, be able to do what it is that you want to be able to see. Because somebody said, we have got what? Politicians and not leaders. Those politicians, you and I put them there. Because we say, I could not see anybody. But we do see people. But we've created all these measurements about how, oh, they don't have money. They are not, Sindio? Young people, you know, for me, I keep saying my hope is in the Gen Z movement, and I mean Gen Z and everybody, my children's age as well, and the fact that you're out there being vocal. But I always say politics is a selfish game, selfish and personal. We have not decided to make it personal. The day you will make it personal is the day we are going to elect the people who look like you, who represent your issues, who even are you. And we will not be looking at whether they are rich or they are poor. We will be looking at a totally different value system, which takes us back to what the Constitution says, chapter 10. You know, I used to tell people, if you know the person was a thief and you still went ahead and elected the thief, explain to me why we're complaining. What did you expect? I mean, really? Can we, you know? So that's what we do.
Naturamba.
Yes. We just go ahead and we're like, let us. We knew he murdered, but we just go. Then they go there and they do silly, silly things. We come back and lament. We shouldn't. And I keep telling somebody, you're stuck with that person for the next 5 years. And if we don't learn from our mistakes, there's a problem. So women can get into political power, but it requires for guys to recognize that the system or the political system that we have, the party system that we have for nomination, for election, is against women. So we need to get all of you over here to be able to recognize that and to see how you're going to support us.
Yeah.
When we did not have, we made noise before Beatrice came in. Do you remember? We wrote a letter because we asked, are you telling us that we have no capacity? We did demand that we must have 50%. In fact, we said we must have 50%. But look, I have seen even in counties, yeah, we got 40. But I've seen even in counties where we have governors who are women, they're not doing really well when it comes to positions of power. And so it isn't about, it's not a gender issue in terms of the face or the person. It goes deeper than that. And we need to be able to recognize that if we continue to use the system of political power to choose people, we are going to fail. So I hear you guys came up with a party. I can't remember what it was called. It is not that. It is about the character of the party in terms of what it stands for. If your character is one of weakness, you will disintegrate even before you get into elections.
Betty, allow me to put you on the spot at this particular point. Don't
tell me when I'm standing.
Yeah, you are speaking passionately about women's voices and the spaces that women should take when it comes to issues, politics or leadership in this county, to put it into context. Just the other day, we saw how traders were locked out from a market, that the majority are women, our mothers, our sisters. This market has employed very many young people in terms of, just their self-employment. We had one woman who was fighting a cartel in the name of the county city manager because of some selfish political reasons. But yet, no civic leaders like you came out here and rallied behind these women who were being mistreated. I think it's only yesterday that they went back to the market. Imagine right now they could have been outside and it's raining. Where were you people when we are saying that women need to actively take those spaces, yet we are in spaces like yours rallying behind these women?
Women organizing is difficult in Kisumu. Even as she's busy saying, Mercy Daniel, even as she's talking about women organizing is difficult. That story you're talking about in Kibuye, we could not get a unified space. It was so divided that if you did it, we were going to cause more harm, because you would go and then you come back and people say, and who are these women? And who are these? So we looked at the bigger picture and we're saying, what value is it if you cannot have the power of having 500 women on the streets protesting, you cannot ignore that. But when there is so much division within them, it becomes so difficult because they start fighting each other. And because we recognize that there is somebody behind all that, we do not want to put them at a situation where you're starting to lose credibility and legitimacy. Perhaps the fact that they're back means that there's conversation that was going on that said, put those people back. No, I'm saying the fact that it means that there is something that has made them go back. But how much noise? Because then it is temple. Yeah, but how much noise? How much noise? Why do we make noise? Why are we making noise? Because going back is not about temporary. I hear they've gone back, but the question is, why? Why did we take them out in the first place? Has that been sorted out? And was that a genuine issue? We should look at Kibuye from a bigger picture. And the bigger picture here is that we want to take away space that has been organized, not just now, from before. I think we are aware of what happened to Chichwa Market. And Chichwa continues to be the same thing that if we're not careful, will happen to what is going on in Kibuye. There's no mapping of who owns that space. Do you know that? There's no mapping. So you walk in today and you're told you're given this. When you go to, when you go to the county government, how many stalls do you have? About 320 in Kibuye. How many stalls are there? How many are recognized stalls or spaces? More than 1,000. But if you go there, how many of them, how many women are in that particular space? 2,000. So what happens to an extra 1,000? Who is making money out of this 1,000? And so when you want to put order, who do you think is going to come and make noise? The 1,000 that do not have tenure security. So that the 1,000 who are genuine will be affected by the 1,000 who have no tenure security. And this additional 1,000, are they giving you guys money? Somebody somewhere is taking that money because it's not recognized. So it is a systemic problem that must be dealt with. And what the city manager was doing is not helping. It just politicizes the whole thing. We need to be able to have that conversation. And you know, Bovins is laughing. Perhaps I should give you this so you can tell us the politics behind the market for women. But I think for me, we have got to be able to recognize that if 1,000 women are making noise and 1,000 women are protesting against the 1,000 that is making noise, what does that tell you? That they'll come back and say, oh, they're just disorganized, oh, these people, whatever, oh, we need to sort it out. You know, we play into the arms, we're literally playing into the hands of what it is that they want to do. If civil society was to go in, we would go in to do a mapping. But we have tried doing the mapping because we had an OSR. We did an on-source revenue mapping for Kisumu County to determine how much money Kisumu County should be able to get. We were not able to get into Kibuye. You will not go in because of the cartels that are there. Right from the wholesale down into the people who are inside, onto the streets that is there. If the county government cannot sort it out, who are we to come and sort it out? We are unable to because we have no security. I think we throw it back to the county government and tell them, if we organize the women that you're talking about, organize the women, everybody comes forward. And I will tell you, it will be very difficult because you have 1,000 women who will lose it. But then instead of trying to get 1,000 out and 1,000 in, take all the 2,000 and let them have spaces. Reorganize it, because then they become everyone, you know, serving, you know, paying and doing what it is that they're meant to do. Bobbies, why are you laughing? Because they're paying you already anyway.
Okay. This is just an example of the conversation about the county management, mismanagement, if you would have it. So, because we need to move to the tail end of this, I want to take that conversation. I'll let you speak, Winnie. I think still, you know, I'm corner but let it be brief, okay? Because we don't want to make it just about Kibuye Market. But it's an example which I feel, in all fairness, she has explained in terms of the bigger picture of what forces could be at play. However, translate that to the national scale and the conversation of, you say it's the noise that led to the reopening. So if we go back to almost a year back, June 25th, the noise that was there against the financial bill 2024, then it was rescinded. Things were stopped. And then now we are almost back to point zero, and even probably worse, some would argue. What will it take for the fortune and good of this country to coalesce, to put together that youthful voice and noise, if some would call it, to push back for the betterment and for the future of this country? What agency do we have as youth? And we're looking at 2027. She's spoken of electoral coup. How do we translate this noise, quote unquote, for our better as a future? So Winnie, kwa ufupi, still, natumai pia unataka kuzungumza. I'll give her an opportunity before you because I haven't heard her voice. Winnie, if you have a mic, or if there's a mic, please, upande. This lady who hasn't spoken, this lady here just behind Hashim. Hashim, naomba nimpe tu mic ya Hashim, basi mpe tu yako hapo nyuma yako, tafadhali, asante. You, I want to hear you first. You haven't spoken. Ongee kutoke lakini. Sasa ndio ndo disorganization. Ulikuwa umeinua mkono, sasa utaki kuzungumza. You were pointing at the person behind.
Yeah, there are 3 hands behind you, so she was trying to.
All right, let me see. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We have 2
real quick, Winnie.
on the other side.
Real quick. Let's give an opportunity to everyone to chime in. Winnie kwanza, alafu uwe jamaa. Yeah, Winnie kwanza.
So I'd like to take it a little steps behind on women and leadership. And I'd like to throw a question at us, all of us sitting here. Like Madam Betty has said, that it would take all of us to put women in spaces of leadership. But do we have women of integrity to put in those spaces? Women that will not turn their backs on us as young people. Do we have women who would go against societal norms on behalf of the people they represent? When we talk about having our leadership spaces as political, do we have women who would go against the already set societal expectations?
Carry on.
Kuna mtu anakanyaga waya. Do we have women who would step outside of the societal set standards of how they need to behave to get the right representation of the people they would like to represent? So even as we think about those 3, where are they? When we talk about the issues of Kibuye market, and I'd like to say this respectfully, that I have worked with the women in Kibuye. I have done mapping in Kibuye. And they have accepted that we count them. So maybe it's also a case of how are we collaborating as a people? As a unit, how are we collaborating so that we have those spaces?
Okay.
When I am not aware of your numbers, can I get those numbers from the other party instead of just deciding that I am the one with the numbers and chances are you don't have?
So let me just
Lastly, when we want to politicize the youth issue and we want to throw youth into political arenas, this is where we get it wrong. And that is why the Gen Zs were out on the road. The Gen Zs are very particular in how they are articulating issues that are affecting them. They're not waiting for us to explain to them the documents that the government has given to us or the documents that the government has made public. They already have those documents. What the Gen Zs are saying is, where is accountability? For this 1 shilling that was supposed to be put on this particular road, where is it? If it was meant to buy cement, where is the cement? If the cement was bought, what did it build?
Yeah.
That's all we are asking.
Asante. Real quick, and then Robbie Kulenywa. You had a, yeah.
Yeah, my hand was up. As I said earlier, my name is Maxi Daniel. And when you talked about 2027 and what that looks like for young people, as a Gen Z, Winnie likes to call me Gen Z sometimes. As a Gen Z, I think the one thing that we've been sharing with people the most is ensure that you're a registered voter. Ensure that you're a registered voter. Don't be complaining about, after 2027, about certain people because you didn't vote. It won't make sense, you know. So one, be a registered voter. Another thing that I wanted to talk about, let's not wait until there's bloodshed for us to shake hands, to give hugs, and to sympathize and move on. Let's talk about things when they are happening. Let's not wait until an international station comes with a documentary for us to talk about or to analyze, you know. Let's not wait until, as young people, we are burying fellow young people. I went to 3 of those funerals, and I must tell you that it is the most difficult thing to do. So let's not wait until then. 2027 is coming, and we all know what it looks like. From what is going on in the country, we all know what it looks like. I still love my bed, so I'm going to be very minimal with the words that I'm going to say. You know, if you know, you know. But we should be very careful with 2027 as young people. The other day we were saying something and people thought that we were joking. We were saying, if your parent, your own parent, my father is 51 years old. If my father does not understand what the finance bill of 2024 was saying, what business does he have to go and vote? Yes, he is of age. Yes, it is his right and his responsibility. But if he does not understand the Bill of Rights, what business does he have to go and vote? So it is important even for us as young people to ensure that we understand. And I like when you mentioned, we forget about every other document, and let's go back to the Constitution. What does the Constitution say about every individual in this room? When you're looking at the Bill of Rights, when you're looking at different sectors for young people, for women, for men, for the general community, there are sections that do not even mention men and women. It says people. Do we look at those ones? Or are we just here to complain and rant and wail when we don't even know where our ID cards are at? So as much as we want to lie to each other that we are prepared for 2027, young people, it is time for us to take those ID cards. It is time to take those voting cards and to ensure in 2027, if somebody cannot explain to you what voting even means or what democracy actually means, then they have no business waking up at 4 a.m. to go and vote. They have absolutely none. And then lastly, when you're looking at women and leadership, I am privileged and lucky to be in leadership myself, yeah? And when we're looking at, there are certain narratives that have been told about women over and over and over again, where we are parading women as disorganized. You keep on saying, when somebody tells me that women are disorganized, you're telling me that by the time I will want to be the women rep for this county, I will get nothing. Maybe Winnie will be the only person to vote for me. You understand? So I'm thinking, when you're talking about women, let's not start parading the narratives that have been used in the past to divide us. Let's start using narratives that are true, that are on the ground, and things that we can actually attest to. Because I have seen women show up for me. I have seen women. I was part of the protest last year, January 27th, for End Femicide. And I saw thousands of women show up for women who are not alive. So imagine a woman who is alive. In December last year, 10th of December, on Human Rights Day, we also showed up in the streets for women who are not here with us, women who died. So you can imagine you who is alive right now, if you were to say that I want to be in a position 1, 2, 3, how many women will rally behind you if you sell your ideology properly?
All right.
Thank you so much.
I want to see you on the ballot. Kwa kifupi.
Actually, I'll be very brief. Opako once again. So, basically in 2022 elections, there was voter apathy. We take a look at the stats. majority of the youth did not vote. So here we are, rant. It's good we are ranting. But what next after ranting? 2027 is around the corner. Chukua kipande, chukua kura. You've advocated for voting in women. Vote that woman candidate you want. You advocate to vote for a youth who you think has the mettle to become a leader. Vote in that youth. And also, the ruling class is actually a reflection of who we are. If I take that 2 sok or 5 sok or that kaunga and then vote for a non-performer, then the onus is on me, the mistake is on me. So, bribe ikuje nikatae, niseme mimi hapana, before you give me that unga, let me see your manifesto. Then if that actually we have a shift of narrative, a shift of perspective, then coming back here post 2027, that will actually, the story will be different. The last thing is, as young people, let's have a young first mentality. I cannot say Winnie's tickets are expensive. I don't go to her show and I'm a young person myself, right? Now, I don't want to promote her. So as a young person, the first thing, that 1,500 for plus size, nichukue tikiti niende. You see? Monica here is an MC. Wacha niseme, she does her MC stuff well. She sends a link to me. I go to her show too. And that cascades all around. And I'm not saying stuff that we're not doing. At Lolo AI, our average age of developers is 23. So we are hiring young people or partnering with young people to give them opportunities so that we can take this AI agenda from Kisumu worldwide. Thank you.
When it 23?
Basically, I'm young at heart.
Yes, go ahead, really quick.
I'm still Odongo Robi, and I think I will not sleep well if I don't respond to Purity's question. If here in Kisumu, are we just jonyade that we choose jobs, amani job ndiaiko? If you're expecting me to tell you it's a stereotype about us being jonyade, Mike Nyade means charisma. It's a Luo thing. We are, and we are proud of it. But this is how we are jonyade. We are people who don't buy motorbikes when we can manage Benzes. We are people who don't eat githeri when we can afford a chicken. We work hard for it. That does not mean that we choose jobs. Tupatie tu job. Kwani the other regions vijana wako na job? Hawana. So we are proud to be Nyadi. There's nothing we can do about it. Secondly, my brother OJ said something that it's a fact. When you are pointing at the politicians, I'm happy these 3 fingers are pointing at us. And that is where the change should come. Somebody said, if you see a stupid leader, he was elected by stupid electorates. We can rant and rant and rant, but when it comes, I don't know what happens when it comes to elections, then people still start asking like, you are not circumcised, Jews. Just yesterday there was a post about Pierre Lumumba was enlightening people on how, I can't remember what it was about. If you go to the comment box and see how the people is fighting for wanamuliza, yani they is trying to open their eyes. Go to Morara's page. If Morara posts something that is really affecting us, as we are tunamurushia mawe mpaka ninajiuliza, bado tuko mbali, ni sisi. It's not just about voting, but we have to change our mindset. Hapo tu ndio solution iko. Thank you.
Nyani yaoni kundule.
Asante. So, last word to our 2 panelists, because Betty did have a good wrap up. Really quick, because the team has to wrap it up and we're traveling back today.
Thank you. Allow me to respond also as well.
Yeah, we need to
because
wrap
there are
up.
a number of issues that have also been raised. First, I want to ask amongst us, how many of us have attended Huduma Mashinani platform? There's 1. There's 1, 2. There are about 3. How many of us can mention by name the ward administrators in your ward? None. You could see the number. So what I'm trying to say is, Huduma Mashinani is a platform that was created by the governor to get the opinion of people on how he's able to deliver the services. And these are platforms maybe as young people we should also take advantage of to give feedback as far as the performance and service delivery is concerned. And you can see by representation, a number of us do not participate. And this is a platform that is publicized, is actually both virtual and physical, right from the sub-county all the way to the county level. 2, the governor has devolved devolution to the village level, beyond just the ward administration, but we have 70 villages. And in those villages, we have village administrators who are the eyes of the governor at the grassroots level. And where there are issues, we should actually escalate from that level. We don't have to visit maybe the governor where he sits, but we can start from that point and be able to understand what is happening at the policy level. I must say this, that when the governor came in, there was a minister that was put in place that was in charge of art, culture, sports, and those aspects that are touching on young people. That was in 2017. I came into government in 2020 as a director. In 2017, the artists themselves came up and formed what we call the Kisumu Art Culture, the Guild, something like that, and Council. And this team was supposed to be the eyes of the artist as a representation so that they are able to articulate the issues of the creatives at the grassroots. What happened with that group, we don't know. But I can say that there's a lot of dishonesty. There's a lot of disintegration among the young people. In as much as we are talking about an artist being a representative of the face of the creative in a particular center, how are we actually forging our way to ensure that our voices are heard, to ensure that the governor is able to do the needful so that we can say as artists that whatever representation that we have is not actually addressing our issues. So that, to me, is also something that we need to understand. However, allow me to say this, that when you are at the space of the youths, you will understand that the future, the past is unknown, the present is a bit confusing, and the future is uncertain. That is where the young people are. And for me, my take will be that we really need to reflect into the past. Where are we coming from? Where are we currently? And where do we need to go? If you listen to her actually talking about the violence that we have, there are simple things that we probably ignore. Men, even seated here, we plant seeds everywhere, and our children are everywhere. We don't know where they are. Mothers are raising them without the fathers. And then at the end of the day, these children, they don't have fatherly guidance. And these are the children that probably becomes violence because of the condition and the environment they were raised into. So responsibility starts with us. Somebody, a philosopher called Thomas Hobbes.
Your last word. Your last word, yes. Your philosopher word, yeah.
Thomas Hobbes, he lives in 15-something and 60s. He said that if the state of nature is to prevail, the world will be brutish, the world will be short, the world will be cruel, because human nature is evil. Human nature is corrupt. Human nature is all those negative things. And therefore, that could be the reason why sometimes you look at somebody presenting himself and you know he's corrupt, but you see yourself in him, and that's why you vote him in. Thank you.
Mark, before he goes, I think, Bovins, we need to put things into perspective and not assume that the art of the responsibility of women is to raise kids on their own, where men go, leaving seeds all over the place. It's a collective responsibility. So let us not put the burden on women and blame that the young boys or young men that we're seeing in the country becoming violent are because they're coming from single motherhood. So let us debunk that. Raising children is a collective affair. Responsible man knows that when I leave a seed somewhere, I need to go back to that seed and ensure that it turns out to be a very fruitful tree. Thank you.
Mine is just to take us back to the Constitution again. And I want to quickly for like 30 seconds talk about these handshakes that we've had. I remember when you were talking, and one of the words I wanted to throw in there that has become bad was also our foreign policy. And looking at Lake Victoria, you see it has a tripartite kind of approach in conservation and management. And my sister there talked about living in Kisumu right next to a lake that does not serve her. And it is funny because the other day I was making an application for Nat Geo, and I was looking at the watershed of Lake Victoria in Kisumu County alone. And I was shocked that there are only 60 or below 50,000 people on the water grid in Kisumu. That the county government was boasting it is serving at 99%. But what is the percentage of people you're able to reach with such a resource? And we have the lake right here. Then it brings me back to the work we do with NAM Festival on Justice for Lake Victoria, and women in particular. Women and youth are being sidelined in fish value chain. And if you look at the fisherman who's bringing the fish out, the people who process that fish and take it to the market and everything, it's actually the women and the youth. But then they're the ones who are being left out of decision making in the fisheries. So I believe the county needs to do more in terms of, bringing inclusivity. Because when it comes to marginalization of this region, and you look at the issues like Victoria is facing, Kenya is not in terms with Tanzania. Sometimes we're not in terms with Uganda. And the policies we are trying to work on are embedded on what we have signed as the Treaty of the East African States that make sure that all these countries come together to make sure Lake Victoria is sustainably managed. But you will hear stories of women who have children who are getting kwashiorkor, diarrhea, and all manner of waterborne diseases because they go straight to the lake to fetch the water, boil it, and use it. So I feel that there's supposed to be a lot of priority discussions of the types of projects people want. Some people just want water to irrigate, to do their work, and da-da-da-da. So I believe that at the regional level, because this could be beyond Kisumu County, and I know that it's not something that it's on them, but Lake Victoria has 5 counties on the Kenyan side, and then it has another 2 countries. A lake that had 480 types of fish today has 43 types. And on our dinner table, we only know about 3 or 4. Ni uongo ama ni ukweli? Where is the fish? What is happening to the factories and hotels pouring sewer water in our fresh water? What happens when we know so well there's a principle that we are signed to as Kenya called the polluter pays principle? Why don't you slap all these organizations and businesses polluting our water so that they restore? We don't even have recycling policies that help us really take the waste as a resource and develop it into something, creating massive employment for young people. But we are constantly bickering around who got what, who has shook hands with who, and then, okay, fine, they shook hands. Why aren't the things that this region is usually constantly marginalized for not happening after the handshaking?
Wow.
Why don't we get those goodies? So my final point is, if I may finish, that in terms of historically, Kisumu is blessed. This region, when you turn left, you are in Tanzania. When you turn right, you are in Uganda. So this is the headquarters, literally, of East and Central Africa. So Lake Victoria is a symbol of unity, powering Egypt through River Nile.
Yes.
And we are serving over 440 million people along the Nile Basin community. Which brings me to my final point on history. When I look at the changes this city is going through, some are good, but sometimes I feel like we need to interact so much with the nature in our lake.
Okay.
There used to be a feeling when you come from Busia and you drive just after airport, there were nice flamboyant trees. And those trees had orange, red flowers, a lot of them. And you would drive through, an alley of trees. Remember that? Or I'm the only one? There are Indians who planted those trees, and I was reading about those trees. Those trees help to purify the air. Those trees give you medicinal value for your skin. Those trees help to lower temperature. Why did those people plant them there? We cut them down to build a highway. At what cost are we developing? And at what cost are we taking care of our natural resources in Kisumu? Thank you.
Asante. Tumpe makofi and tumpe all the other panelists here, as well as yourselves. We're hard pressed on time here, and apologies to those who are raising their hands when I cannot give you an opportunity to speak based on time because we have to wrap down. And Dala Dialogue is clearly an open conversation that shows us a lot more needs to be discussed. To Bovins, to OJ, to Betty, to you, every one of you here, and to the technical team that made this possible. Thank you. My name is Mark Masai. Irokamano.
Thank you very much, Mark Masai. And thank you very much for the audience that we've had here, our panelists. And my call of action for you is that as a young person, as you're leaving this place today, Penjiri, ka a youth wadwa ochung, bear the chung kode, kosopodwa rito gonya, warito ni mondogonyi yudhe. Every day I see some familiar faces in every other meeting. We complain, we raise our issues. But when are we taking that call of action and take that bold step? There is no other youth who is coming from somewhere else. It is us to stand up, to take up the action, and to support one of our own. Donge. Eroruka mano kabisa.
Asante sana. Give yourselves a round of applause. Have a good evening.